A myth that turned out to be true was the legendary city of Krishna, found more than 20 years ago, and why do the Indian authorities still prohibit its research? What are they afraid of? A mythical place, the city of God, was discovered at the bottom of the Arabian Sea in 2001. Dvaraka, as it is called, has been hidden from human eyes for thousands of years under a 130 feet of water column. The wisest thing is time, because it reveals everything, said the ancient philosopher Thales of Miletus, who was an ancient Greek. Someone will add, not only wiser, but also more powerful, because no one can resist time. The waves of past centuries wash away not only people and their petty creations, but also civilizations and cities. Some cities manage to withstand the blows of these waves, as rocks stand even in the strongest storm, while others go underwater, both literally and figuratively. Some cities of antiquity were destined to find a new life. Some, like for example ancient Byzantium or Rome, even became the capitals of the New World. Others left forever, overgrown with grass, like Babylon or like Troy, rest under a layer of earth, waiting for the Henrik Schliemann's, the archaeologists of the world, to find them again. An amazing discovery took place at the state of Gujarat in the northwestern India. There's no doubt that 10 to 12,000 years ago, at least in this area, there was a highly developed civilization. The discovery is able to convince even the most stubborn skeptics of this. The press wrote, "The huge city, 8 kilometers long, 3 kilometers wide, is believed to predate the oldest known ruins in the subcontinent by more than 5,000 years. The researchers correlated the place with ancient texts and determined that, according to legend, Krishna lived in this city. A 1,000 years old ancient epic tells us about the war of King Salva against the city of Dvaraka. Its author describes in detail the aircraft, the vimanas, laser, and even jet weapons. Krishna has used a weapon that strikes like fire and the sun. That's kind of a laser, I guess, and is as deadly as a snake venom. It destroys the vimanas, but King Salva managed to escape. Then Salva rushed towards Krishna, and Krishna killed him with his shining disc." Dr. Richard Thompson, researcher of Indian culture, asked this question in the last century. If this is just mythology, how could the author of ancient India, describe the rocket, beam weapons, and high-tech aircraft in such detail? It's very unlikely that all Indian mythology is pure fiction. It's very similar to the fact that it does describe the real facts. Only the narration is conducted by mere mortals, limited in knowledge and understanding of technology, and that's why the legendary text seems today like a fairy tale to us. Dvaraka, Dr. Rao's Atlantis. The ancient Dvaraka was discovered by Indian archaeologist Dr. S.R. Rao. The find was so sensational that the sunken city is now called Dr. Rao's Atlantis. Dvaraka will never again appear before people in the form in which it experienced the peak of its heyday. The new city in the middle of the sea was built very soundly. It had straight roads, wide streets and alleys, as well as wonderful gardens and parks where trees of desires grew. In the city there were also many palaces and gates. Almost all the palaces were of extraordinary height. Each house had cellars that were large gold and silver vessels for storing grain. There were many golden vessels with water in the rooms. The walls of the bedrooms were inlaid with gems, and the floors were tiled with mosaics from the precious Marakata stone. But the legend tells us about the tragic end of the wonderful city. Harivashna tells how, after Krishna's departure from this world, the sea waves rose and the abyss hid Dvaraka from human eyes, as if the city could not bear the separation from its great master and went to the bottom. Apparently, Dvaraka was covered by a tsunami wave of enormous force, which threw huge stones composed from the wall, and this probably led to the fact that the Gomati River changed its course. As archaeologist K.H. Vora testifies in his report, says the famous researcher of Dvaraka, archaeologist Dr. Rao. Geological research and aerial photography data confirm the evidence of ancient legends and tell us that several thousand years ago, an unprecedented catastrophe broke out on the coast of Gujarat and in some areas inland, accompanied by flooding of coastal territories, desertification and vast spaces, and drying up of a whole network of rivers, of which the largest was the legendary Saraswati. Starting with the tsunami, the disaster dragged on for many centuries. The elements subsided only by the middle of the second millennium BC. The main temple of Dvaraka is a Dvarakanath temple. This is a Krishna temple built in the ancient city Shikara style with 60 columns supporting a 5-story carved conical tower. According to the legend, the temple was built in one night by Vajrana, the grandson of Krishna. In the spring of 2001, the team of researchers from the Department of Marine Archaeology of the National Institute of Oceanography of India was working in the Gulf of Cambay. It was there that scientists made a discovery. This was announced May 19 by Indian Minister of Science and Technology Manohar Joshi. The follow-up study lasted 3 years. Many samples have been collected. Some of them were sent for analysis to universities in Germany and the UK. After painstaking work with artifacts, archaeologists unanimously came to the conclusion that in front of them were, in fact, samples from the lost city of Dvaraka. Of course, they were in no hurry with other statements, but the facts spoke for themselves. They found relics confirmed the found relics confirmed the existence of an ancient civilization preceding the current one. The found fragments of statues, ruins of buildings, and human bones date back to the 8th to 10th century BC. It's very similar to the fact that the heyday of the city was exactly 12,000 years ago. And by the way, this date pops up in many other studies related to underwater finds. If we put aside all hypotheses and conjectures, it becomes obvious that it was then that the level of the world's oceans rose sharply, to an extent that the outlines of all continents changed, and the civilizations that had flourished up to that point disappeared, and the remnants of humanity were thrown into savagery. But not all researchers remained silent about the Indian find. The author of several articles, a researcher of the mysterious artifacts of the past, Graham Hancock, stated, "In light of the startling discovery, the theory of the origin of civilization must be reworked from the ground up." However, in 2004, in the midst of research, the Indian government sharply cut off access to the archaeological site for all scientists, both foreign and domestic. At least that's what they said in their press release. In our views are completely different from yours. Every foreign researcher who applied to work at the sunken city received such a response. What was found on the seabed that forced politicians to classify the work? Maybe the legendary Vimana was found, or something more serious. One way or another, a huge city still is closed, and the authorities trembling guards to protect it. So we don't know the truth for a long time, it seems. So they're trying to hide this. This is on Solask. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.